Welcome back to G Fun Facts Online. Today we are exploring a technological miracle straight out of science fiction, a breakthrough that fundamentally changes how we will be remembered by the universe. If you were to walk into the archives of the ancient world, say the ruins of the Library of Alexandria, or the unearmarked caves of early human settlements, you would find our ancestors' legacy etched in stone, clay, and pigment. Those mediums, primitive by our modern standards, possessed an extraordinary quality, and that is permanence. Today, in the era of quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and global interconnectedness, we generate more data in a single day than humanity produced from the dawn of civilization to the turn of the millennium. Yet, ironically, our digital empire is built on a foundation of sand. Hard drives crash, solid-state drives lose their charge, magnetic tapes degrade, and CDs suffer from disk rot. We are facing the very real threat of a digital dark age, a future where our descendants might inherit billions of terabytes of unreadable, corroded metal and plastic. But what if we could build an eternal library? Enter laser-etched quartz glass, also known as 5D optical data storage. Often referred to as the Superman memory crystal, this groundbreaking medium promises to store unimaginable amounts of data for a period that defies human comprehension. Up to 13.8 billion years, which is roughly the current age of the universe. The transition of this technology from a theoretical physics experiment to a commercial reality between 2024 and 2026 marks one of the most significant breakthroughs in the history of information technology. Spurred by pioneering research at the University of Southampton's Optoelectronics Research Center and major tech initiatives like Microsoft's Project Silica, laser-etched glass is poised to solve the global data storage crisis, drastically reduce the carbon footprint of server farms, and secure the legacy of human civilization for eternity. To understand the sheer magnitude of this 5D optical storage breakthrough, we must first grasp the precarious state of global data. We currently live in the zettabyte era. Think about every photograph you upload to the cloud, every financial transaction processed, every genomic sequence mapped, and every scientific simulation run. All of it contributes to a digital mountain that grows exponentially every single second. The problem is not just how to process this information, but how to keep it. The backbone of our modern cloud infrastructure relies heavily on magnetic hard disk drives and magnetic tape for cold storage. Cold storage refers to archival data that does not need to be accessed instantly, but must be retained for legal, historical, or scientific reasons. However, magnetic storage is inherently unstable. The magnetic fields that represent the ones and zeros of our digital lives slowly lose their alignment over time, in a phenomenon known as bit rot, or magnetic decay. Because of this, data centers must constantly migrate data to new drives every 5 to 10 years. This endless cycle of migration is a logistical nightmare and a massive environmental disaster. Experts predict that by 2040, if our current trajectory remains constant, a significant percentage of global electricity consumption could be devoted solely to powering and cooling data storage facilities. Furthermore, the physical hardware required, the racks upon racks of spinning metal disks and plastic tapes, generates literal mountains of electronic waste. We have essentially been building the most important library in human history out of disappearing ink. The solution to this impermanence was found not in some complex synthetic polymer, but in one of the most abundant and stable materials on planet Earth, which is silica, or quartz glass. Fused silica is chemically inert, it is highly resistant to thermal shock, and immune to electromagnetic interference. It does not rust, it does not rot, and a stray magnet cannot accidentally wipe its contents. However, writing data into a solid block of glass is no simple feat. It requires the precision of advanced optics and the raw power of quantum-level manipulation. The technology is formally known as 5D optical data storage. To the naked eye, the medium looks like a simple transparent coaster, usually about the size of a standard CD or a 5-inch glass disc. But beneath its smooth, unassuming surface lies a staggering landscape of nanoscale engineering. The core of this incredible breakthrough relies on something called the femtosecond laser. Let us break that down. A femtosecond is 1/400,000th of a second. To put that mind-bending fraction of time into perspective, there are as many femtoseconds in one single second as there are seconds in 31.7 million years. Lasers capable of emitting light pulses at this incomprehensibly short duration can deliver intense bursts of energy without generating the heat that would otherwise melt or crack the delicate glass. When this femtosecond laser is focused deep within the fused silica, it creates tiny, microscopic physical alterations in the glass structure known as nanogratings. Unlike a traditional CD or DVD, which only stores data on the flat, two-dimensional surface of the disc, the femtosecond laser writes data three-dimensionally throughout the entire volume of the glass. The laser moves precisely across the X, Y, and Z axes, layering data in stacked tiers deep within the quartz. Now, you might be wondering why it is called 5D data storage if it only uses 3 dimensions of space. The 5D moniker is not just a clever marketing gimmick. It describes the actual physical properties used to encode the binary data. The first 3 dimensions are the spatial positions, the x-axis, the y-axis, and the depth within the glass, which is the z-axis. The 4th dimension is the slow axis orientation, which relates to polarization. The 5th dimension is the strength of retardance, which relates to the intensity of the light. When the laser blasts a microscopic point in the glass, it creates a nanostructure that affects how light travels through it. This relies on an optical property known as birefringence, which is the exact same optical property that makes certain crystals split light into a prism of brilliant colors. By altering the orientation of the nanograting, which is our 4th dimension, and the size of the nanograting, which is our 5th dimension, researchers can encode multiple bits of information into a single microscopic point. When it comes time to read that data, an optical microscope equipped with a polarizer shines light through the glass. The specific way the light bends and changes as it passes through the nanogratings is captured by a camera and instantly translated back into digital data. The physical durability of these memory crystals borders on the mythic. Because the data is inscribed deep within the molecular structure of the fused quartz rather than resting exposed on the surface, it is virtually indestructible under normal and even extreme planetary conditions. The University of Southampton's Optoelectronics Research Center, led by visionary researchers like Professor Peter Kazansky, has subjected these 5D memory crystals to grueling, almost apocalyptic tests. The results are nothing short of breathtaking. In terms of thermal stability, the crystals can withstand freezing temperatures and massive infernos up to 1,000 degrees Celsius, or 1,832 degrees Fahrenheit, without losing a single byte of data. Kept at standard room temperature, the data is projected to remain perfectly intact for billions of years. When it comes to radiation and electromagnetic pulses, the quartz glass is entirely unaffected. Unlike standard magnetic drives that can be wiped out by solar flares, cosmic radiation, or an EMP, you could theoretically detonate an atomic device right next to a 5D crystal. While the sheer kinetic force of the explosion might blast the glass disc into a wall, the data encoded inside would survive the radioactive fallout completely unharmed. It is also water and chemical proof. It cannot rust, corrode, or suffer from water damage, and it is completely impervious to most acids and chemical solvents. Because of these astonishing properties, Photonics, the commercial spin-off company created in 2024 to bring this technology to the global market, confidently states that a 5D optical storage disk is capable of lasting 13.8 billion years. That is the estimated age of the universe. In a very literal sense, the data written onto these tiny glass disks will outlast the Earth itself, enduring long after the Sun expands and engulfs our planet. For many years, 5D optical storage was dismissed by skeptics as just an expensive laboratory trick. Early on, it was agonizingly slow to write, difficult to read, and confined strictly to university research centers. However, the critical period between 2024 and 2026 proved to be the tipping point where this science fiction dream transitioned into a commercial reality. In 2024, researchers from the University of Southampton officially spun off their enterprise into the startup called Photonics. Their goal was perfectly clear: to take the Superman memory crystal out of the pristine lab environment and place it into the sprawling, power-hungry data centers of the modern world. By late 2025, Photonics successfully raised $4.5 million in early funding and proudly announced that they had moved the technology from a localized lab experiment, known as Technology Readiness Level 5, to a deployment-ready system suitable for operational environments known as TRL-6. This massive commercialization push revealed some staggering capabilities. A single 5-inch glass disc, barely larger than the CDs we used to play music on, was successfully engineered to hold an astonishing 360 terabytes of data. Let that sink in. To put 360 terabytes into perspective, it is roughly equivalent to 72,000 standard DVD movies, or millions upon millions of high-resolution photographs, all crammed into a single transparent glass coaster. The historic challenge with laser-etched glass was always the write speed. Early iterations took hours just to write a few megabytes of data, but by 2025, S-Photonics announced functioning prototypes capable of writing data at 4 megabytes per second and reading it at 30 megabytes per second. While this is certainly slower than a modern NVMe solid-state drive you might have in your computer, it is more than adequate for cold storage archival purposes, where speed is secondary to permanence. Furthermore, the technological roadmap dictates rapid and aggressive scaling. By the years 2028 and 2029, developers expect to achieve sustained read and write speeds of 500 megabytes per second, putting the glass discs right on par with commercial SATA SSDs. The cost of this incredible technology is also rapidly descending from the stratosphere. S-Photonics estimates that the commercial reading machines will cost around $6,000, while the highly complex, high-powered femtosecond laser writing machines will be priced in the $30,000 range. A field-deployable reader is officially expected to be hitting the commercial market by mid to late 2027. If you think about an enterprise data center operator who is currently spending millions of dollars every single year, replacing degraded magnetic tapes, and constantly powering massive climate-controlled server rooms, a $30,000 investment for a zero-maintenance infinite lifespan archival system is the absolute bargain of the century. While S-Photonics drives the commercialization of 5D memory crystals out of the United Kingdom, the corporate titan Microsoft has been quietly pioneering its own parallel initiative called Project Silica. Microsoft's cloud division, Azure, manages exabytes of data all across the globe. Recognizing the highly unsustainable trajectory of standard magnetic storage, Microsoft actually partnered with the University of Southampton years ago to explore volumetric archive recording in fused silica. Project Silica's focus is specifically on enterprise-level cloud storage, designing massive automated libraries where futuristic robotic arms glide seamlessly along racks of glass plates, retrieving and reading archives at lightning speed. Project Silica highlighted the specific economic advantage of what is known as write once, read many, or WARM mediums. Most archival data sitting in the cloud today, things like old medical records, financial compliance logs, historical census data, and old media files, rarely needs to be rewritten or updated. It simply needs to be preserved and occasionally accessed. By shifting this massive, heavy volume of dormant data off of spinning hard drives and onto passive glass plates, tech giants can drastically reduce the power consumption of their massive data centers, perfectly aligning with their aggressive carbon-neutral climate goals. Beyond the immense commercial applications of cloud computing and modern data centers, laser-etched quartz glass has profoundly inspired the scientific and biological communities. It offers an unprecedented, monumental opportunity to create an enduring, indestructible record of life on Earth itself. In an unbelievable achievement in 2024, Professor Peter Kazansky and his dedicated team at the University of Southampton successfully stored the complete human genome, the entire DNA blueprint of a human being, onto a 5D memory crystal. All 3 billion base pairs of the human genome were carefully mapped, digitized, and blasted permanently into the fused silica. The profound motivation behind this endeavor was as philosophical as it was purely scientific. Because the memory crystal can comfortably survive for billions of years, it could potentially outlast the human race altogether. Professor Kazansky noted during the monumental 2024 announcement that we already know from the work of others that genetic material of simple organisms can be synthesized and used in an existing cell to create a viable living specimen in a laboratory. This staggering fact opens up the astonishing possibility of bringing humanity, or perhaps endangered plant and animal species, back from extinction in the far distant future, possibly millions of years from now, should advanced future civilizations or even extraterrestrial intelligences discover the crystal and possess the scientific capability to synthesize DNA. To aid whoever, or whatever, might find the crystal in the deep, distant future, the research team brilliantly etched a visual key directly on the surface of the glass. This visual key pays beautiful homage to the famous Pioneer plaques launched by NASA way back in the 1970s. It features a detailed visual depiction of the universal elements, such as hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen, along with the distinct structure of the DNA double helix and an illustration of human male and female forms. It is quite literally the ultimate message in a bottle, cast out into the vast, unending ocean of deep time. Because of their lightweight nature, incredible durability, and extreme resistance to cosmic radiation and harsh vacuum conditions, 5D memory crystals are also the perfect candidates for space exploration. If humanity is ever to become a true multiplanetary species, our data and our history must travel with us, surviving the harsh, irradiated void of deep space. The incredible concept of sending quartz-encoded data into the cosmos is actually already underway. Back in 2018, a 5D memory crystal containing a digital copy of Isaac Asimov's seminal science fiction masterpiece, The Foundation Trilogy, was placed safely in the glove compartment of Elon Musk's red Tesla Roadster, which was famously launched into a solar orbit aboard the maiden flight of the SpaceX Falcon Heavy. The ambition certainly did not stop there. In June of 2025, an eternal archive containing ultra-high-resolution images of the Chauvet cave paintings, which represents some of the earliest known human art dating back an astounding 32,000 years, was launched into Earth's orbit aboard the exploration company's Nix space capsule. These space missions serve a brilliant dual purpose. First, they rigorously test the real-world viability of the storage medium in actual spaceflight. Second, they act as genuine off-world backups for human culture. Should a cataclysmic extinction event, such as a massive asteroid impact, a supervolcano eruption, or a global nuclear conflict, render the Earth uninhabitable, the memory crystals orbiting our Sun or stashed safely away on the Moon or Mars will survive perfectly intact to tell our story. While the preservation of humanity's legacy is a deeply poetic and profound application, the immediate impact of laser-etched quartz glass will be intensely felt in the global economy. Over the next decade, as reader and writer technologies become widely accessible, several key industries are poised to undergo a massive transformation. The first is national archives and libraries. World-renowned institutions, museums, and national archives are currently locked in a constant, expensive battle against physical degradation. Digitizing ancient, crumbling texts is only half the battle, because maintaining those digital files is just as expensive and risky. 5D optical storage will finally allow institutions like the Library of Congress or the Vatican Archives to back up their entire, massive collections onto a few hundred simple glass discs, ensuring that fragile historical texts, treaties, and priceless cultural artifacts are preserved indefinitely without the need for constant, costly server maintenance. The second major area is the global seed vaults. Vital facilities like the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, located in Norway, act as an ultimate failsafe for global agriculture. Storing the incredibly complex genetic sequencing data of every known plant alongside the physical seeds is absolutely crucial. With 5D glass storage, scientists can bury an indestructible, comprehensive biological database deep within the freezing permafrost, completely immune to moisture, the biting cold, and the ravages of time. The third massive use case is medical and compliance data. Global hospitals and healthcare networks generate truly massive amounts of data daily, including enormous high-resolution MRI and CT scans. By law, these critical medical records must often be kept safe and secure for decades. The sheer volume of this required data puts an immense financial strain on healthcare IT budgets everywhere. Fused silica offers a warm, write once, read many, compliant medium that absolutely guarantees data integrity. Because the glass physically cannot be overwritten or altered by malicious ransomware attacks, it provides the ultimate, foolproof cybersecurity defense for immutable health records. Finally, we have media and entertainment. The global film and music industries are absolutely terrified of losing their precious master recordings. We have already seen tragic, Irreplaceable losses, such as the devastating 2008 Universal Studios fire that destroyed thousands of original master tapes of legendary musicians. Major studios are closely and anxiously watching the rapid development of S-Photonics and Project Silica. Archiving original 8K uncompressed video files and master audio tracks onto immortal glass discs will ensure that the brilliant cultural output of the 21st century never fades, never degrades, and never accidentally burns to ash. We also cannot discuss the future of global data without addressing the massive elephant in the room, which is climate change. The internet is a physical thing. It lives in millions of buzzing servers housed in massive, sprawling warehouses globally. These servers run incredibly hot, requiring industrial-scale air conditioning systems and billions of gallons of fresh water just for cooling. The global data storage infrastructure currently consumes an estimated 1 to 2% of all global electricity, and this frightening number is rocketing upward every year. Furthermore, standard magnetic hard drives contain precious rare earth metals that require deeply environmentally destructive mining operations to extract. When these drives inevitably die after just 5 years of use, they are aggressively shredded and dumped into massive landfills. Laser-etched quartz glass fundamentally and beautifully alters this grim ecological equation. Silica is the absolute most abundant mineral in the Earth's crust. It is essentially just highly purified sand. Manufacturing these glass discs requires very little in the way of toxic chemicals or destructive rare earth elements. But more importantly, a warm glass archive requires exactly zero electricity to maintain its stored data. A warm drive on glass does not need to be kept in a heavily climate-controlled room. It does not need a constant humming trickle of voltage to prevent data loss. A modern data center could theoretically house an entire exabyte of archival data in a plain warehouse with the lights turned completely off, the air conditioning fully disabled, and the main power cord simply unplugged. The absolute only energy required is the brief, fleeting moment a robotic arm picks up the physical disk and slides it smoothly into an optical reader. This massive paradigm shift will save untold billions of dollars in enterprise energy costs and significantly shrink the massive carbon footprint of the entire tech industry. Despite the boundless, well-deserved optimism surrounding 5D memory crystals, the technology is still carefully navigating the growing pains of a nascent industry. The primary hurdle right now remains hardware accessibility. While the fused silica disks themselves are incredibly cheap to produce, often costing just pennies in raw materials, the femtosecond laser writers are highly complex, ultra-precision optical instruments. S-Photonics projecting a $30,000 price point for a writer is certainly a massive reduction from the original $1 million lab equipment, but it still heavily limits the technology to enterprise, government, and heavy industry buyers. It will likely be at least a decade before we ever see a consumer-grade glass burner that a home user could simply plug into their personal PC. Secondly, standardizing the vital file systems and complex decoding algorithms is absolutely paramount. A brilliant 10,000-year storage medium is completely useless if the specific software required to read it goes entirely obsolete in just 50 years. To actively counter this terrifying possibility, forward-thinking researchers are developing open-source universal decoding instructions etched directly into the physical surface of the glass itself. It acts as a Rosetta Stone for the modern digital age, ensuring that even if operating systems like Windows or Linux completely cease to exist, future engineers can easily and efficiently rebuild a physical reader from scratch to properly decode the binary data trapped inside. In conclusion, since the very dawn of human self-awareness, we have been endlessly obsessed with permanence. We vividly painted hunting scenes on the walls of Lascaux, we meticulously carved the Code of Hammurabi into massive diorite pillars, and we constructed the Great Pyramids of Giza to stubbornly defy the passage of time itself. Yet, as our modern civilization advanced into the digital realm, we inadvertently traded the deep permanence of stone for the fleeting, fragile convenience of invisible magnetic fields. Laser-etched quartz glass brilliantly brings us full circle. Through the absolute mastery of light, quantum mechanics, and nanoscale engineering, we have successfully synthesized a modern, technological equivalent of the ancient stone tablet, only this one is millions of times denser and infinitely more resilient. The astounding breakthroughs of the mid-2020s by brilliant institutions like the University of Southampton and determined startups like Photonics have rapidly moved this technology from the quiet realm of theoretical physics directly to bustling commercial viability. By successfully storing 360 terabytes of data on a simple piece of glass that can survive the eventual death of our own sun, we have finally secured our digital footprint. Whether it is solving the catastrophic, escalating energy consumption of modern data centers, archiving the complete human genome to bravely guard against total extinction, or simply ensuring that the incredible art, music, and science of the 21st century survive for the next 10,000 years and beyond, 5D optical data storage truly represents one of the crowning achievements of human ingenuity. We are no longer carelessly writing our history in disappearing ink, we are finally etching it deep into the stars. Thank you for listening to G Fun Facts Online. Keep wondering and keep exploring.